Fox Sports.
We are Buffalo. We are St. Louis.
That was a look at some of the images and great faces of franchise greats here in St. Louis. It's a beautiful afternoon, and we're at Busch Stadium. This weekend set against Milwaukee wraps up this afternoon, and the Cardinals still holding on to the final wild card spot in the National League. St. Louis, a half game in front of Los Angeles. Their opponent today, with a win, would be only 4 out, and that's the Milwaukee Brewers. And welcome to Cardinals Baseball. That's Rick Horton. I'm Dan McLaughlin. So many things have to happen right for a team to get into postseason play. You think about a little luck, but you also have to have the combination of good pitching, good defense, and timely good hitting. Last 10 games, that has not been the case for the Cardinals.
Hitting all season long has been good for St. Louis, however. We've been bragging about this power in the middle of the lineup and also 6 300-plus hitters, but the last 10 days have not been as good. It's a team that is prone to prolonged team slumps, and unfortunately the Cardinals are in one right now. They cannot afford to keep going in that direction if they're going to play in October.
One of the young starters for St. Louis gets the call in a big afternoon. It's Joe Kelly. The Cardinals, the Brewers, a Sunday afternoon on Fox Sports Midwest. Baseball. They have won 15 of 19. The Cardinals have lost 8 of 11. Joe Kelly tries to change that this afternoon.
Joe Kelly has been outstanding in the Cardinals' rotation. 6 2/3 innings, his longest outing of the season in his last start. The Cardinals are going to need him to go deep. In fact, the Cardinals' starting pitching is going to be what needs to improve over the next 3 weeks to carry them into October.
Sean Markham going for the Brewers today. They're looking for a sweep here at Busch Stadium. The Memphis Redbirds making an impact here in St. Louis. A look at that when we come back. Some of the young players recently, Rick, making an impact for the Cardinals.
The Cardinals have always been known as a team that grows talent. In fact, 12 out of 25 players on the current roster were in Memphis in the last 2 seasons. Nearly 70% of the current Cardinal ball club actually has come through the system. Joe Kelly has surprised everyone with his good fastball and his off-speed pitch. Good, strong arms out of the bullpen, throwing 95 plus, and talented players with more on the way.
Lance Lynn working out of the bullpen yet again this afternoon. We've seen Ryan Jackson at second base and at short. And the Cardinals need a little spark this afternoon. Will it be Kelly? We're just about set to go.
And another chance for the Cardinals to get back on track and make their push towards the postseason. If the Cardinals want to relive the magic of 2011, they'll need to pick up the pace. St. Louis will dust themselves off and try again today, hoping to snap their current 3-game slide. And on the hill, it'll be Joe Kelly. The Redbird rookie hopes to rally the troops and get a W before the Cardinals head west. Baseball next on Fox Sports Midwest. To you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. By your Mid-America Chevy dealers, the #1 selling brand in St. Louis. Find us at stlchevy.com. By Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 for quality tires and expert auto service. And by Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake, just no equal. Beautiful afternoon for baseball. Ron Renneke and the Milwaukee Brewers. A chance to sweep St. Louis. And on Friday night, the Cardinals came back to tie it up, and then Ryan Braun, wee hours of Saturday morning, decided to say that was enough. Solo home run. Last night, Ricky Weeks off a Rosenthal. And the hitters in the middle of the lineup have come alive for the Milwaukee Brewers. Aramis Ramirez dealing with a sore back. It doesn't matter. They would win Game 2. And looking for a sweep here in Game 3.
Ron Renneke's team playing very well, playing their best baseball of the season. It's a rotation that has dealt with injuries throughout, but the middle of their lineup has just been very, very good. The Cardinals and Joe Kelly are going to have to find a way to handle Braun, Ramirez, and Hart.
And that trio is in the middle of their lineup. Aoki, Weeks, and Braun here in the first. Then Ramirez, Hart, Lucroy, Gomez, Segura, and Markham. The Cardinals will have the rookie, Joe Kelly. He's 5-6, 3.54 ERA as he is approaching 100 innings in the major leagues this season.
And making start number 15. And when you look at rookie starters in the National League, the guys you think about at the top, you think about Miley. You also think about Harrell, who's done a nice job with Houston, and Fires with Milwaukee. Joe Kelly is third among rookies in terms of earned run average. So he's not really being talked about as Rookie of the Year, but he's certainly in a good crop of young starters in 2012.
Take a look at the St. Louis defense for Mike Matheny this afternoon with Holiday, Jay, and Beltran gets a start in right. Pinch hitter last night. Carpenter is back in there at third after hurting both his hands. Tony Cruz gets a start. He's behind the plate. Around the Horn is brought to you by Dobbs. The Cardinals at 74 and 65, and they own a half-game lead for the second wild card spot in front of Los Angeles. So, Rick, it is a big, big game. Trying to avoid a sweep, trying to avoid losing for the fourth consecutive game before a road trip that may define their season with San Diego, LA coming up.
And it would be nice to find some offense in the early going here this afternoon. Mike Matheny and his club have just had a hard time scoring runs in the last 10 days. And that's a little bit too much pressure on their pitching staff. And Joe Kelly, every time he goes out, Dan, his most important start of his career, and today is no different.
Here's Aoki to lead things off. And he looks at his strike. Batting .282, the 7 home runs. He's hitless in this series. A cool afternoon here at Busch Stadium. That misses low and away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Remember last night to start the game, Aoki hit one to deep center field, and it was tracked down by John Jay in a fine play in center. The 1-1 pitch.
Get the sense that John Jay is playing a more shallow center field in general. As the series and as the season has gone on, John Jay's made so many great plays out in center field, but he's very shallow. Aoki has 7 home runs, so he has a little pop in his bat. But Jay has been so comfortable going back on balls. I think he's just starting to play more and more shallow.
Well, we saw Jim Edmonds, who did not have the greatest speed, playing very shallow, but did get some of the best jumps you'd ever see. 3-1 pitch ripped into right center field, and they're back at it again. This ball is off the wall. 1 hop. Aoki on his way to second base. Will he try for 3? He will not. He'll stop at second. It's an extra base hit, and that's the 79th game in a row, which is the second longest streak in Brewers franchise history with an extra base hit. That's how they start the afternoon.
Team that has good power. They have 176 home runs as a team, and again, he looks like a slap hitter, but Aoki can hit the ball a long way. And John Jay, playing shallow, is still able to keep him to a double. Jay, the shortstop Descalzo, and Schumacher participating in High Sox Sunday.
Part of the resurgence of the Milwaukee Brewers has been the play of Ricky Weeks in the second half. He had that nasty ankle injury a year ago, missed considerable time. And they feel it's taken him basically this season to get back on track. Carpenter looks back the runner at second, and that's the first out. You have to do the little things down the stretch too, and the second place hitter cannot advance that runner.
You just see so much of that, and particularly on the first pitch. I mean, if you maybe get down in the count, Dan, and you're forced to kind of roll one over and hit the ball to the left side, that's one thing. But Ricky Weeks really did not appear to be trying to hit the ball the other way there, and that takes away a very good RBI opportunity for Ryan Braun, who, by the way, has 100 of them.
He's actually ahead of his pace that he was at a year ago in home runs as well as RBIs. This time last year he had 27 home runs. This year he's got 38. 95 RBIs. This season 100. The difference is in average. 332 as opposed to his 314 this season. So he's making a case for the MVP again.
No question.
1-0 pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Set his career high with 38 home runs. He had 37 in 2008. What a career he's had. He has just been very, very consistent. Over 100 RBIs the last 4 seasons, 4-time All-Star. And his biggest RBI season was 2009 when he had 114. So good chance to catch that as well.
You bet. Aoki is the runner at second base, and here's a 1-1 pitch by Kelly. Fly ball into right. Beltran is over to make the catch and fires a strike into third. Just to remind everybody, he still has a very strong arm.
9 outfield assists on the year for Carlos Beltran, just showing off his arm there. There's no sense in Aoki going from second to third, but Cardinals are going to need Carlos Beltran to get back on track. Not worried about his defense right now, other than perhaps his range with his knee issues. But really, the swing of Carlos Beltran is of concern at this point. His timing and all of the hand issues and wrist issues that he's been dealing with.
It's been a solid year and very much a solid career for Aramis Ramirez. He's on pace to hit 51 doubles this season. That would put him just one shy of the franchise record held by Lyle Overbay back in 2004. Homered here last night. 1 ball, 1 strike. He has 334 career home runs. And that's as a third baseman, 7th all time on that list in Major League history. It's been a very good career.
And he's had a good career against the Cardinals, too, in particular. 375 this season against the Redbirds, and just always a dangerous at bat. I feel like he has started to really understand the strike zone, too. He doesn't chase as much as we saw early in his career.
1-2. Dealing with a sore back, and they got him back in the lineup in this series.
He considered not playing yesterday. I wish he hadn't have.
I'm with you. He's 7 for 15 right now on their road trip. Here's a 1-2 pitch inside. Kelly hitting 97 on the gun. Kelly is the one that has emerged this season that we really didn't talk much about. Always hear about Carlos Martinez or Shelby Miller, but not about Joe Kelly, and this season at least arguably the best of the bunch. And he gets him on the outside corner. Strikeout of Ramirez. He has words with the home plate umpire. No score after a half inning. To the bottom of the first here in St. Louis. It's Jay, Carpenter, and Holiday, followed by Craig, Beltran, Schumacher, Tony Cruz, Descalso, and the pitcher Joe Kelly. Sean Markham gets the start for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Sean Markham, not an overpowering pitcher. He has a very good changeup. Missed 2 months of the season with right elbow issues. In his last 3 outings since coming off the disabled list, he's been so-so. 3 or 4 runs in each one of the games. He's not gone past the 5th inning. And he is a free agent to be. And he's just trying to prove himself that he is a viable starter in the big leagues once again.
Another start for Aramis Ramirez over at third. We're talking about his offense. .976 fielding percentage as a third baseman that leads the major leagues. Lucroy gets the start behind the plate. And John Jay will dig in for the first time. Go back to August 6th. John Jay leads the National League in batting average, 47 hits, and also on base percentage. He's been hit 7 times in that stretch as well.
Really become a good leadoff hitter who's not afraid to work deep into a count.
Two balls and 1 strike. And Jay continues that trend with a base hit into center field. He has been red hot at the top of this lineup for the Redbirds.
Now 10 for his last 22, a 6-game hitting streak for Jay. And what we really need to see happen is the Cardinals stringing hits together. And somewhere along the line to get the long ball back into the equation. At one point the Cardinals were up there among the league leaders in home runs, but they have drifted to 7th in the National League, and over the last month or so the production has really dropped.
Also the runs scored department now in favor of Milwaukee after last night. So here is Matt Carpenter. It's an odd injury for Matt last night. If you missed it, he was 1 for 2 in the game. Picked up a base hit, bat shattered, gets down to first base, realizes that his hands were cut. There was some blood on his jersey and on his pant leg, and was removed from the game, but back in there this afternoon.
So if ever he's going to go to batting gloves, it would be today, but he's not doing it.
Interesting.
A number of cuts really on each hand, and he talked in our pregame show about how he actually had them glued. The cuts on both of his hands were actually glued shut, and he said he's fine to play.
Ramirez well off the line at third. They'll hold it first, and there's a strike. So here's what we're talking about. Last night, bat would shatter, winds up in the green seats, but the handle's still in his hands.
Talked about how he hit that ball right squarely on the best part of the bat, so he thought maybe the bat was broken when he took it to the plate. Mike Matheny was asked about that play before the game. He didn't know that the bat shattered. He thought he just threw his whole bat into the stands until after the game, when he found out that that's why his hands were bloody. And Mike's biggest concern was the fan that got hit with the bat.
That fan, by the way, was and is a daughter of a friend of ours. She was hit on the knee, for those of you that were wondering, and
we saw her limping.
Yep. Apparently she's all right. She was in St. Louis to visit her dad, who turned 70. They were celebrating his 70th birthday last night. His name is Ed Curtis, so if you know Ed, wish him a happy birthday, 70th birthday. But she was in from New York, and Ed has been over the years very close with Tony La Russa and members of the Cardinals organization, so we hope she's all right and resting comfortably and enjoying a little baseball today.
Good to hear.
1-2 the count as Markham steps away. Another nice crowd here at Busch Stadium. A cool afternoon. A little bigger lead this time for John Jay, who's at first. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Cardinals with just 3 home runs on the homestand, and as a team batting .269. A big gap into right center field. Another check on Jay over at first base. So let's see, they play off the line at third, but then the outfield giving him right center. The 2-2. You wonder if Mike Matheny wants to jumpstart things a little bit. This might be the time to do it on a 3-2 pitch. Get this offense going.
I think you can trust Carpenter to put the ball in play, so I would certainly send John Jay, and he's quick enough to get the stolen base anyway. He's only been thrown out 4 times.
He is running. The 3-2 is a ground ball to the right side. 1 away. Jay advancing to second base, and it brings in Holiday.
You know, the jump starting the offense is kind of a double-edged sword, really, when you're the manager. You could say, and fans would say, well, you know, let's start moving the runners. Let's just start being more aggressive. Well, you get a hit, and your team is having trouble getting hits, and you get thrown out, then it's even more depressing because, wow, we finally got a base runner, and he got thrown out. So there kind of goes both ways, but in this case with John Jay's speed, I think it was a good gamble for Mike to send him, and it worked out.
Mike had talked about in spring training he wanted to be more aggressive with this team. And that included a healthy Rafael Furcal at the top of this lineup. Holiday is 2 for his last 11, 0 for his past 7.
Cardinals certainly are running more and more effectively than they did a year ago in terms of the stolen bases, and John Jay's been a part of that. Carlos Beltran's been a part of that.
John Jay, the runner at second base. And the 0-1 pitch. Holiday was out of the lineup the other night after the long rain delay of 2 hours and 20 minutes on Friday. Initially he was in, then they took him out. And he has been durable this season. Holiday has played in 136 of the 140 games the Cardinals have had, which includes today. 1-1 pitch. We've also seen, Rick, in particular this series where they try to bust Holiday in, and you wonder if they've noticed the back bothering him. Is it tougher for him to open up, swing the bat, let loose with that vicious swing that he has?
He certainly does have a vicious swing, no question about that. Violent swing, really. Jose Oquendo communicating with John Jay, making sure he gets a big enough lead. Trying to hold him tight there at second base with Ricky Weeks. Always a job to do if you're a first base coach, third base coach, communicating.
1-2 pitch. Taken just a bit low, 2-2.
Markham's a good fielder, too. He was a college shortstop at Southwest Missouri State. Freshman year, he went to the University of Missouri. But a very athletic pitcher. So you have to watch out for his move. Take a few steps off. Listen to your coach. Got to be eyes for you. And Oquendo shouting at Jay, either take one more or back up. And now Markham wants to talk to his catcher.
It's working very slowly here in the first, and he hasn't seemed to be very comfortable at all. Just to follow up on the background of Sean Markham, graduated from Excelsior Springs High School in Missouri. And this is his kind of day, the opening season, or opening day of the NFL season. He's a huge football fan of the Chiefs. Began his baseball career, the major leagues with Toronto, and now in his second full season with Milwaukee. Count is full on Holiday. Third round pick initially in 2003 by Toronto. Brett Lowry, the fiery infielder for Toronto, was initially a part of the Milwaukee Brewers system. And that was the trade, those two for each other. 3-2 is hit out to deep left field. This ball is out of here. Into the bullpen it goes. And Holiday has given the Cardinals a 2-0 lead here in the first with home run number 26.
That's the start the Cardinals were looking for this afternoon. Matt Holliday providing the 2-run home run. John Jay getting aboard. And you don't have to worry about how big your lead is on this blast. You can walk home. There's the violent swing, Dan, you were talking about for Holliday. Doesn't seem to have a back problem there at all.
408 feet distance of that home run. We always mention how lefties are low ball hitters. How many times have we seen Holliday really go down to get a baseball and have the ability to drive it out of the ballpark?
Seems to be his wheelhouse. Ball down, whether it's a fastball or an off-speed pitch, he just likes to attack the lower half of the zone.
Oh, 2 the count on Craig. Batting in that familiar spot cleanup for Mike Matheny and his lineup. 5 hits during this homestand.
Heard Oral Hershiser talking within the year about how baseball changed over a decade. It used to be that you get people out low, and that's when you get ground balls and you get outs, and all pitchers work down in the zone. He believes that there was an evolution in teaching hitting, that coaches were trying to get guys to attack the lower part of the zone. Look low, attack low, a la Matt Holliday. And Hershiser's point being, it's become more and more important for pitchers to be able to get outs up in the zone with the high fastball. And the Cardinals have a couple pitchers that can do that. Lance Lynn was doing that in the early part of the season. Joe Kelly can do that from time to time. And so hitters adjust and pitchers have to readjust.
Strikeout of Craig. 2 outs. First strikeout for Sean Markham. And it brings in Carlos Beltran. We'll keep saying it, but he may be the key down the stretch for the Cardinals.
The Cardinals could get the Carlos Beltran of April, May, and June. You'd have to say they're the favorite to get that second wild card spot.
Hits it down the right field line. Will it stay fair? It's gone! Second home run here in the first inning. Holliday a 2-run shot. This one a solo shot by Beltran. His 29th. 3-0 St. Louis here in the first.
Wow, is that good to see. Carlos Beltran. Been a long time since he's gone through this line. Been doing a lot of first pitch swinging of late. Trying not to get behind in the count, and he jumps on the first pitch that he sees from Markham.
RBI number 87 for Beltran. Here's Schumacher. 2 balls and no strikes. Nice easy swing that time by Beltran. Skip shoots it down the left field line, and that slices in there fair. Into the corner it goes. Backhanded by Braun, and Schumacher is in with a stand-up double. That's 4 hits here in the first inning for the Cardinals.
When you're playing a team like Milwaukee, you just have to keep pushing. Sean Markham struggling here in the first inning, but you know how good their offense is, so don't stop. Schumacher finding the left field line, and he had been 0 for 12. Schumacher, another one of the Cardinals that had been struggling. Beltran had been 0 for 14. Schumacher 0 for 12. And Holliday 0 for his last 7. So 3 extra base hits in this inning. And if my math is right, that's a combined 0 for 33 from those 3 players that have done pretty well against Mr. Markham here in the first.
Here's Tony Cruz. Had the long game Friday night. Last night, about 3.5 hours. So Molina gets the day off. and gets ready for San Diego. Tomorrow night, Jaime Garcia gets the start for St. Louis. Very effective in his previous start here at home. Runner goes. That's Schumacher down to third. He's in there safely. They say that Markham can be very slow and deliberate to the plate, so a chance to take advantage of that in this ball game today.
And the Brewers do not throw out runners very well as a group catching either. And Schumacher with his first home run during this homestand of the season, and now his first stolen base of the season.
Here's a 1-1 pitch. Descalso is on deck. Carlos Beltran have to go back to August 10th. Span of 23 games between home runs. Outfield is straight away for Cruz. And Cruz hits it sharply too short. Big inning for St. Louis. The Cardinals pick up 4 base hits, 3 of them extra base hits, and 2 of those 3 left the ballpark. Holiday, Beltran, they go deep. 3-0 St. Louis after an inning. Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by MyKiaSt.Louis.com. And get the All-American Jack Combo at Jack in the Box. It's a no-nonsense burger with fries and a drink for only $4.99 plus tax at participating stores. Bob Gibson statue just outside Busch Stadium. One of the greatest pitchers ever in franchise history. Big game pitcher, post-game, or rather postseason pitcher, and also one of the best in the history of the franchise, Chris Carpenter. Should get a look at Corey Hart. And Carpenter will throw again to batters for a simulated game tomorrow. And then after that, we shall see.
You know, Dan, I think it's one of the joys of doing what you and I do as broadcasters for this franchise, to be a part of such a long tradition of good teams, good players, and to be able to connect with Bob Gibson's and Stan Musial's and be able to talk about Cardinal championships of the 40s and the 60s and the 80s. I think it's just part of what makes being a Cardinal broadcaster fun. I think if you're on another ball club, you don't have that to draw on. And the people around the ballpark, Brock and Gibson and Ozzie Smith, Whitey Herzog coming to as many games as he comes to. Really is a privilege to be a part of this organization.
3-1 pitch. Count runs full. And if things would go well tomorrow for Carpenter, potentially looking at, and again, potentially 3 to 4 starts before the season is through. That would be the regular season. There's a broken bat, and it pops over Carpenter. A tricky hop that time, and Corey Hart on his way to second base. Stand-up double.
Here's the tricky hop. He reacts, but then it goes higher than he thought. And playing third base is a 100% reaction position. Don't even have time to take a step. You're just reacting.
Postseason tickets for this 2012 campaign. You can still get those when you place a full season ticket deposit for next year. Cardinals.com to get those. Joe Kelly this season 4-0 in starts in which he's gotten at least 3 runs of support, and already 3 runs in the first inning for St. Louis. And down the stretch with the pitching staff, so many things to think about. Jaime Garcia, can you try to line it up to where majority of the rest of his starts come at Busch Stadium? Wainwright creeping a little closer to 200 innings. Joe Kelly pitching further into a season than he ever has. Hit to short. Descalso, high throw, and the tag is there by Craig. So again, leadoff double for Milwaukee, and they can't advance the runner.
Fundamental baseball. Get the runner from second to third. Now, if you've got Hank Aaron at the plate, you let Hank Aaron swing. You don't ask him to try to hit the ball the other side, but Jonathan Lucroy is not Hank Aaron. Tag play by Alan Craig, getting more and more comfortable at first base. Found it interesting in this homestand. There were a couple of opportunities for Alan Craig to be an outfielder, which you think of him in some ways as more of an outfielder, and then have Carpenter play first base. But Mike Matheny, I think, is just seeing that Alan Craig is our first baseman, period, right now.
Here's Carlos Gomez. And Carpenter started third base, and we were wondering last night if David Freese had hurt himself play in which he had to go over the mound, and he's not in that lineup today.
Swollen ankle, and we noticed on his hit that he was a little ginger running to first base. He had a base hit late in that game, and then he had to be taken out, and really a situation where you would have liked to have seen him batting his last turn with the game on the line, and he wasn't there. But the reason was he did turn his ankle, still swollen, and not 100% sure whether he's even available today. They were going to test him during the early part of this game and give him some swings in the cage to see how it has responded.
It's a play for Descalso, and he got him. Daniel had a similar situation with Gomez running last night. Remember, they forced the issue a little bit, and this time he's up to the test.
Well, you have to go fast but not hurry. And if you can understand that and you can explain it, then you can be a big league shortstop. But it's hard to understand that nuance of difference. But that's where Descalso was on that play. He was being quick, but he didn't rush it and made a good solid throw. And Gomez, oh, I love to watch him run.
Plays hard.
He sure does.
Here's Segura. And the ball gets away from Cruz. Wild pitch. And Corey Hart scores. So that's how they get on the board, 3-1.
Just pulls this one all the way across the plate, and Cruz does everything he can to try to get his body in front of that ball. So mistake by Joe Kelly, and that's why moving a runner along matters. Put him in a position to score on something like that. Segura was rated the second best prospect in the Angels organization. He came over in the Zach Greinke deal, and he was a Double-A All-Star for the Angels this year. Not a lot of experience yet, but a lot of promise.
.316 hitter in the minor leagues. They say is a very slick glove, good range.
It is pronounced Gene Segura from San Juan.
He draws a walk on 4 pitches. And it brings in Markham. Markham this season a 103 hitter, no home runs, and he's driven in 1. Outfield is shallow, big gap into left center. There's strike 1. Where the pitching lines up for the series in San Diego. Garcia tomorrow night, Adam Wainwright on Tuesday. Loesch will go in the afternoon game. It'll be on Wednesday. Seems like it's never easy to go out west and play. It's been that way for years. And Cardinals obviously with a key series coming up. Don't want to think too far ahead, but you've got the Dodgers, and the Dodgers wrap up their series with San Francisco. Still fighting in the West. Oh-2 pitch. A little bit high. Currently Los Angeles 4.5 games out in the National League West. One-two pitch. Matchup today of Cy Young Award winners. Clayton Kershaw, Barry Zito. Kershaw, ERA that's close to 1 in over 100 innings in his career against San Francisco, and at AT Park it's .66. The heated rivalry between those two teams and franchises. 2-2.
Kershaw's so talented. I think about that game he pitched here in St. Louis this year on a hot day, and the Cardinals just beat him around a little bit. They wore him out. Kershaw has that tremendous curveball, and the rotation of the Dodgers can be good, but so can the Giants.
2-2 is taken for a ball and a stolen base. No, they're going to say it's a strikeout. So Markham is called out on strikes. He was looking back at the home plate umpire. Our crew chief today, Daryl Cousins. 3-1 St. Louis. Sunday nights all season long. Gridiron Live is on Wednesday as the Tigers opened up with a loss to Georgia last night. Historic night for O'Field. And here Gary Pinkel tonight, this week in Mizzou football. You and I were looking at the teams that have a chance to get into the playoffs, and it's a long list, really, in both leagues.
It really is, Dan. 11 teams with an opportunity in the National League and the American League for the 4 wild card spots. You're not really sure when you look in the American League whether it's Baltimore or New York, and there's some division races up for grabs. But even so, you look at the American League and probably 5 teams with a very good shot. In fact, Detroit's only a couple of games back, and they're the 5th team I'm thinking about. You've got Detroit, you've got Anaheim, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, Oakland, all in the mix. And in the National League, you have 6 teams. And the Brewers are one of them.
Descalso grounds out. That's how we start play here in the home half of the 2nd inning.
Can't count out Arizona yet. Pirates, of course. Dodgers, Cardinals, Milwaukee, Atlanta, all of them vying for those 2 spots. Maybe a little edgy to include the Phillies in that list. The Phillies are a game behind Arizona, and at 6.5 out, that seems a little bit much because you've got to overtake so many teams. I wouldn't put it past them to catch one team 6.5 games back, but to catch 5 others, that would be hard. But the Phillies have such a good pitching staff. Never say never.
Here's the 0-1 pitch to Joe Kelly. You always hear about teams saying, let's get to 500 before we think about anything else, and that has a chance to happen today for Milwaukee.
They are 15-4 in the last 3 weeks.
And it could be the first time they're at that 500 mark since they were 9-9.
They've also played very well within the division. They're 40-29 in the Central, and no team in baseball has as many wins within the division as the Brewers do.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. That's pulled fair off the bat of Joe Kelly. We know he can run. He's on his way to second base. I hope he touched the bag at first.
We're just not sure if he can stand up. We know he can run. We tease him about that because he's taken a couple of headers on the base paths already this season, but very good athlete. Hits this one just inside the bag at third. In fact, right over the bag.
Clearly touching the bag. I don't know about you. I keep an eye on that now a little bit more than I did.
No doubt. In fact, I wasn't sure Adrian Chambers touched first base on his triple
last night.
I watched him and I thought, ooh. I was kind of hoping we didn't see a replay, and I didn't ask for one.
Here is John Jay back to the top of the lineup. 4 extra base hits for the Redbirds, first time through the lineup against Markham. 1-out double by Kelly. He stands at second base. Jay with a single and a run scored in the first. Scored on the home run by Holiday. Pulls it to the right side. And Hart flips to Markham, and not running Joe Kelly. He's staying put at second. MLB TV. New low rates for the final month of this regular season. See the games in HD quality on your favorite devices, at home, on the road, doesn't matter. You'll have a chance to take in Cardinals baseball. MLB.TV. Base running mistake, no doubt, that time by Kelly.
Yeah, any ball hit to the right side, you can go from second to third, and that's really the fundamental of leading off at second base in that situation. If the ball's in front of you, you stop in most circumstances, and if it's behind you and it's to the pitcher's left, then you ought to be able to make it from second to third without any problem. There are also some ways you can go from second to third if the ball's hit on the left side of the infield. If it's a ball hit in front of the third baseman and he has to charge, there are times when the shortstop ranges deep in a hole and has a long throw that you can make it. There are times where he has to charge as well, because that's a tough throw across your body for a shortstop. but you can't expect a pitcher to be able to read the ball off the bat quite as well as an everyday player.
Well, Carpenter again without the batting gloves despite what took place last night. The shattered bat. He said it's just a matter of preference. It's never been something that he has felt comfortable with wearing batting gloves, and that includes really cold weather. We had some cold weather beginning of the season, and you always saw him without the batting gloves. 1-1 pitch taken outside and low. 2 balls and 1 strike.
Second in the National League among rookies with his batting average at 300.
The 2-1 pitch. Now 2-2. Grounded out to second his first time up. A 3-1 Cardinals lead. 2 home runs by St. Louis in the first inning. 2-2 pitch taken high.
Pacheco's at 308. He leads rookies in terms of batting average. Carpenter's second. Anthony Rizzo is third. Solano, the former Cardinal minor leaguer with the Marlins, is fourth. And none of those are the names that you're thinking about in terms of National League Rookie of the Year. Rosario, Frazier, Harper. More the names you hear from an offensive side, and I think deservedly so with the production that they've shown. Rosario has 23 home runs and 59 RBIs.
3-2 pitch. Good rip by Carpenter. Fouled back. We're talking when we were in Washington last weekend that Harper may not win the Rookie of the Year, but you could put him up against any of those players and you'd say, who's the guy you want? You'd probably get the unanimous choice of Bryce Harper.
Well, you throw in age, defense, speed,
arm. Threw out another one yesterday from center field. 3-2 pitch again. Out of play. Good at bat here by Carpenter. Think about the season of the Milwaukee Brewers. If they had any kind of bullpen and the back end of games in particular with their closers, the Brewers not only in the hunt for the wild card, you never know, maybe the division too.
Their bullpen has lost 30 games. They're 22-30 as a collective bullpen, and their ERA is close to 5. And I don't think they've figured out all of their problems yet. Even though they've won the first 2 games here, they've shown some cracks still with Axford, Henderson, Rodriguez.
3-2 again, and Carpenter hits it down the right field line fair. That's an RBI. He's on his way to second base. A 2-out RBI double for Matt Carpenter, and a terrific at bat. Drives in Joe Kelly, and the Cardinals have a 4-1 lead.
Well, from Markham's standpoint, the only thing worse than a guy making you work that hard and that deep into a count is the guy then lacing a ball for a hit after making you work so hard. Tried to go inside on Carpenter, and if he has any issues ongoing with his hands being sore, you sure don't see it there, because that's a pitch in on the hands, and he gets the head out and drives in Kelly, no problem.
Now it's Holiday. 2-run homer back in the first was his 26th. RBIs 93 and 94 for Matt Holiday. That RBI for Carpenter, number 41. It's always fun to think about projections in the game of baseball. It is early in his career. It does make you wonder, though, 500 at bats, what would the numbers be for a Matt Carpenter? Cardinals may want to find that out next year. They just might. I mean, there's adjustments that are made by Carpenter, by the opposition, but he looks good. He looks to just be getting better and better, too.
There's nothing that Matt Carpenter does that makes you want to say, boy, I want to see less of him. As his season is worn on, he just continues to have good at-bats. You know, I think the real question for Carpenter, and it's not an unusual question for a young player who's trying to find his way at the big league level, is where does he play? First of all, who doesn't play? And where can he play and be an effective defensive player? Cardinals have tried him in left field, right field, third base, first base, second base.
With 2 at-bats today, he has 238 at-bats. He's hitting above 300 and driven in 41. 1-2 pitch. Holiday hits it a ton. Center field. Got under it just a bit and missed it. Gomez puts it away in center. Cardinals strand a runner. They pick up a run. They lead it 4-1 after 2. Recognition of October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. 25,000 fans ages 16 and older receive a knit headband featuring Cardinals pink ribbon logo presented by Fuse and Schnucks. Again, that's September 30th. Tickets available at Cardinals.com. Gorgeous afternoon, and St. Louis leads this ball game by the score of 4-1 as we move to the top of the third. Cardinals this season 49-21 when they score first. They jumped out to a 3-0 lead after 1 inning of play. Brewers then got on the board thanks to a wild pitch. Carpenter has given the Cardinals back that 3-run lead. Fly ball off the bat of Aoki to center. Jay with the glasses shading from the sun puts it away for the first out. In steps Ricky Weeks. Grounded out to third, first time up. Strike one.
Weeks has tremendous power for a second baseman. Saw him in the home run derby contest, and just a guy that when batting practice rolls around, he just puts on a show every day. He walks a lot, strikes out a lot, and gets hit a lot. So he kind of is an interesting player, not really in a normal mold of a second baseman. you know if you make a mistake, you can hit the ball a long way. So you have to be careful with him. He has some holes.
Ooh, he just missed on the inside corner. With Cardinals this year, a couple things to look at: one-run games and also extra innings. Extra innings, they are 3-10. The loss Friday night. What an opportunity St. Louis had. Numerous opportunities really to win that game, but at one point they brought Ryan Braun in from the outfield.
5-man infield.
Yep. The 2-2.
And Dan, you think about those extra inning losses, and there are a few you would say, well, the bullpen didn't do a good job, but really the Cardinals didn't do much offensively in any of those extra inning games either. And that you can only pitch but so many innings before you're going to crack, and so I don't think you can lay that squarely on the bullpen when you look at their extra inning record.
Good point, yeah. 2-2, swung on and missed, and a strikeout for Joe Kelly. That's his third of the afternoon. Well, we talked about trying to shut down this trio: Braun, Ramirez, and Hart. It's a Toyota keys to the game, and all three have put together really good careers against St. Louis.
Look at the 30 home runs and 112 RBIs for Aramis Ramirez in his career, and that came, of course, in different uniforms. Pirates, Cubs. He seems to be rejuvenated a bit as a Brewer. There are times where we saw him play as a Pirate and as a Cub where he seemed just a little disinterested, but he sure was interested yesterday. Played hard, ran hard.
Disinterested was probably the best way to describe, at least from our perspective, watching him as a young player in Pittsburgh, for sure.
No question. And you know, you don't always know what's going on in his heart and in his head, but he at least gave that impression by his body language and the way he played the game.
Some would say the same thing about Carlos Beltran, and
they have said that,
and we know that's wrong too.
That's right.
He just is smooth. You know, you don't see a lot of emotion from him. He's not throwing his bat or his helmet or screaming. He just plays the game.
And he addressed that earlier this week. He talked about, especially in New York, they perceived him that way.
Yep.
And he doesn't see that that's the kind of player he is, but he understands. He did say that he understood that that's how people perceive him because he plays so smooth and kind of easy in terms of the way he attacks the strike zone and the way he plays right field.
1-2 pitch. Got him, a strikeout of Braun. He knew it. Just spun away. Back-to-back Ks. 4 on the afternoon for Joe Kelly. The defending world champions leading Milwaukee by the score of 4-1 and trying to avoid a sweep this weekend. The fans still coming to the ballpark. A gorgeous afternoon for baseball. Sean Markham very well could be in his final season with the Milwaukee Brewers, and something to prove for many around the game that he's healthy going into this offseason.
Hasn't looked particularly sharp here today, but he's not really an overpowering pitcher anyway. Again, a changeup guy, and really just kind of relies on pitching savvy.
Pretty well hit off the bat of Craig. Gomez, who plays very deep, makes the catch just in front of the track. And there's one away. Brings in Beltran. Nice easy swing here by Beltran. A breaking ball. And a home run for Carlos, number 29. Solo shot that made it 3-0 at that point. Cardinals lead it currently 4-1.
Markham was a 13-game winner in both 2010 and 2011. And certainly a solid starter. And somebody will want him and somebody will pay him. No question about that. He did have basically 2 months of being out with what the Brewers called elbow tightness. And in the age of medical awareness, that just seems very vague to me. Elbow tightness. You normally hear something much more specific in terms of what ligament it might be or what muscle it is. It's kind of like saying he was out for 60 days with a sore. Is this sore?
It's fouled back. I've seen Beltran, Rick, just not taking that full-fledged aggressive swing, and part of that is due to a hand issue he's been playing through, also a sore left knee. But as he said, that's not an excuse. He has just 6 base hits in his last 54 at bats.
Well, we can call it a reason, even though he doesn't call it an excuse. You know, from his point of view, he cannot use it as an excuse or he's in trouble. But I think it certainly explains his diminished production.
Second strikeout for Markham, and on the hands of Carlos Beltran. And Markham has pitched well against St. Louis. The regular season, it was the postseason the Cardinals have gotten to him. High ERA. Cardinals hit .435 against him postseason play. Lost his last 3 appearances. Here's Schumacher, who doubled, then stole third, left stranded back in the first.
With the strikeout of Beltran, the Brewers pitching staff now has 1,212 strikeouts for the year. And they are trying to set a major league record for most strikeouts in a season.
Schumacher lines out. He's 1 for 2. And we head to the 4th. Paris standing by with a Bomberito Sports Update. Pat? Game the other night, committed 7 errors while only picking up 4 base hits offensively. It's not what you're looking for if you're Clint Hurdle trying to stay in this race in the wild card, but Cardinals haven't been playing well. LA has been faltering at times, so Pittsburgh still in the race for the wild card.
And Atlanta has won 4 straight games after looking like they were catchable a couple weeks ago.
Heard the whispers about last year for Atlanta.
Right.
Would they falter again?
I would say they were probably a little sensitive to that subject.
This is Ramirez, and Rick, you think about teams that try to come back from such a devastating finish to a season. As Ramirez pops it up into center field. John Jay puts it away. You wonder if the Phillies have even recovered from losing to St. Louis last year in the division series.
Well, that's a team that I still projected to be a playoff team.
Definitely.
Even though the common opinion is that team was getting older, and you knew at some point they were going to have decreased production from some of their older players, and that's true, but their pitching staff still just so good. Their starting pitching, just hard to imagine. Now, they've had some injuries too, and not necessarily their old guys either. A couple of their young guys. Worley was out for a while, but the Phillies making a charge at the end, and one of those teams, and there are a few like them, that you just don't want to play right now. Unfortunately, the Padres are in that list. Playing very good baseball, and the Cardinals are headed to the West Coast after the game today to play both San Diego and Los Angeles. Can't really overestimate how important that trip is going to be.
1 ball and 2 strikes on Corey Hart. San Diego has the best home record since the All-Star break. They've been talking about moving in the fences at Petco. Maybe they want to rethink that after this finish. Hart does have a double and a run scored today. 1-2 pitch by Kelly. Fouled back.
Rick Hummel was talking about Bud Black as being one of those managers that gets more out of less talent than maybe any manager in baseball, and Mike Matheny agreed with that. Has a lot of respect for Bud Black. And really a lot of no names right now on that team, but they're going to be tough to beat, especially at home.
Big gap in left center. 1 ball and 2 strikes, and now Cruz calls time. Certainly get excited about the future here in St. Louis with this pitching staff, the young guys that have been thrust into action. Shelby Miller debut the other day, and obviously what we've seen from Joe Kelly. 2-2 pitch, and we may see more of those youngsters because of Jake Westbrook dealing with a side issue. The 3-2 pitch, ground ball, and that's a base hit. Hart is 2 for 2. 1 out hit brings in Jonathan Lucroy. And for the first time this afternoon, more on Jake Westbrook. Let's hear from Jim Hayes. Jimmy.
Yeah, another injury, Dan. He's dealing with an oblique issue that may cost him some starts. Mike Matheny said Jake felt some tightening in the 5th last night. Also says Westbrook could miss his next start. They'll do some testing and they'll see exactly what Jake is dealing with. You get the feeling, though, might be a couple of starts for Jake.
It's a base hit into center field. And if that's the case, Jim, did Mike Matheny address how the rotation then would set up with the addition of Carpenter, thinking that things could go well tomorrow, as well as Shelby Miller, who's been in the bullpen?
He has been very optimistic about Carpenter's return, but he was quick to shoot down any theories about who might get Jake starts. Again, they want the testing first, and Mike was not engaging any discussion of who's going to get those starts.
It's going to be very frustrating, Rick, for Jake Westbrook. because he's dealt with Tommy John, so he's missed considerable time because of that. But for the most part here in St. Louis, reliable every 5th day.
And they were going to have continued tests of Jake Westbrook, and the possibility exists for him not to go on the road trip, yet to stay here and get some tests and get treatment. One of the things that Mike said about Westbrook that was a bit of a positive is his right side. In fact, he did it on a pitch to Aramis Ramirez. We actually showed the replay of a pitch that he just pulled into the dirt and looked really uncomfortable with. That's when he hurt it. But he continued to kind of work around it and pitch through it. But because of it's his right side, it's less of a problem from a pitcher's point of view because it's not your pull side. For a right-handed pitcher, the left oblique is the one that has a lot more strain on it as you go through your pitching motion. Doesn't mean it's an easy thing to get through. It just may be less time and less problematic as far as the pitcher's concerned. But if it's something that's going to have lingering problems for him, Mike did think he'd miss at least a start. And as Jim said, he really did not want to talk about the options of who would start for him, but you can guess. It's Rosenthal perhaps, it's Miller perhaps, and Carpenter's kind of out there down the road at some point.
Carlos Gomez at the plate. 1 ball and 2 strikes, 2 runners on.
I don't think Lance Lynn would be the right choice right now, the way he's been struggling with his command.
Delayed call, but a strikeout of Gomez, who then dropped his bat. Walking back to the dugout, Joe Kelly picks up his 5th K of the afternoon.
There's the delivery from Kelly. It is a strike.
Cruz
There's the drop of the bat. I guess you can't really throw somebody out for dropping a bat. Well, you could.
Seen that before. Umpires say you're showing them up, so they don't take kindly to that. Here's Segura. Runners at first and second. He walked on 4 pitches first time up.
One of the good things from Gomez's point of view is the umpire was not looking at him doing that. He was making his out call, which meant he was facing the right direction, the Cardinal dugout, and didn't see it.
There's a broken bat, little floater, and that's a base hit. A run will score. That makes it a 4-2 lead for St. Louis. Corey Hart has scored both runs. Segura, his 8th RBI since being called up. Extends the inning to the pitcher, Sean Markham.
Broken bat. Well placed. Corey Hart scored in the 2nd on a wild pitch, and he scores here on a broken bat hit up the middle.
Markham struck out first time up. Lines it, but caught. Craig puts it away. 7, 8, and 9 for St. Louis coming up.
history of the Dan McLaughlin Golf Tournament to benefit the Special Education Foundation, which helps St. Louis children with disabilities achieve success. Fox Sports Midwest salutes Dan and the donors who've contributed over $1 million in those 10 years. The event is October 8th, and you can get more details at sef-stl.org. Congratulations to Dan for 10 years of an outstanding golf tournament, and looking forward to 10 solid more years helping out young people.
You bet. Close to $2 million now, and the golf is filling up very quickly. Almost sold out there, and if you'd like to take part in the dinner, we'd love to have you as well. Again, October 8th. And Fox Sports Midwest, the Cardinals have been behind this for a number of years. Help support it. The players sign a bunch of the jerseys and baseballs and pictures, the memorabilia that we have. Trips everywhere, chance to see Jay Leno and David Letterman. All kinds of good stuff. So we make it a lot of fun, and hopefully, even if you don't play golf, you come out to the dinner and have a better understanding of how we can help some of these children achieve success, classroom, outside the classroom as well. One thing about it, Rick, is you get a look at Tony Cruz, just how expensive it can be, from wheelchairs to hearing aids, special teachers.
You bet.
So the money does add up for a lot of families, and try to help them out. 1 ball, 1 strike on Tony Cruz. It's Cruz, Descalso, and Kelly. Cardinals are the lead of 4-2 here in the home half of the 4th.
Certainly not a comfortable lead playing the Milwaukee Brewers up by 2 in the 4th inning. The Cardinals need to find a way to get Markham out of this game. Don't wait. Get him as soon as possible. Really not sharp. He did have a 1-2-3 inning in the 3rd, but a couple of balls hit very hard in that inning. One by Schumacher, one by Alan Craig.
Cruz strikes out. Markham is 3rd strikeout of the afternoon, and it brings in Daniel Descalso.
Descalso getting lion's share of the time at shortstop with the injury to Rafael Furcal. Modest 4-game hitting streak, 7 for his last 17, but I think he's doing a solid job up the middle for St. Louis. Doesn't have the range that Furcal has, perhaps, but starting to swing the bat better the more he plays. You know, there's something about that. You come into the ballpark, you know you're in the lineup every day, you're going to get your at-bats. Descalso, who'd been a productive pinch hitter a year ago, just 1 for 19 this year as a pinch hitter. He got in a rut almost, and once you have a bad at-bat, then you don't have one for a couple of days, and it starts to snowball in a bad direction.
The 2-1 is a base hit over Ricky Weeks and into right field. I think you're right, though, Rick. You think about Descalso and having a chance to play every day. Your timing becomes, you would think, a lot better, which can be an issue as a bench player.
Timing, confidence, opportunity, all of it rolled together. Important for an elite level athlete competing against the best in the world.
These folks right there enjoying themselves in Big Mac land. McDonald's offering $1 off, by the way, discounts on McCafe products at all St. Louis McDonald's restaurants. That's from 2 to 5 every day. Kelly puts it in play. Markham, with the runner going, only plays to go to first, and Descalso advancing to second. That's one way to be more aggressive, isn't it?
That's what you were calling for earlier. Just take off. Put a little pressure on the defense. Lucroy's only thrown out 20% of the runners, so if in case it doesn't work, you still got a pretty good chance of actually stealing the base on a straight steal.
Two outs and a runner at second base. The strike to John Jay. Jay with a single in the first inning, a run scored, and also grounded out.
Ouch. Right on the elbow of Daniel Descalso on that throw. Unintended for sure. Chris Conroy out to make sure Descalso's okay. There's the quick feed of Markham, and it hits the left elbow of Descalso, maybe the tricep area. Easy for me to say, but preferable his left arm over his right arm. I mean, I'm sure it's still painful as is to Daniel Descalso, but when you're playing shortstop, I mean, that could tighten up on him and affect his throwing.
Oh, 0-1 the count on John Jay. Two outs. Runner at second is Descalso. In the dirt. There's Jay and Descalso recently at Mercy Children's Hospital. Those two making a visit. And John was telling me about it. Just blew him away. He said you go in there and you sign a few autographs, you take pictures, and families are in tears. Son or daughter dealing with so many ailments, and chance to get their minds off of that. Another check on Daniel.
Well, from the player's point of view, there's the humility that has to go along with it to say, you know, I'm not really that big a deal, and you know, why should a kid be that interested in me because I'm not better than anybody else, and that's the way you want a player to feel. On the other hand, you're in touch with the fact that this is a widespread interest of people in Cardinal Nation to love their players and want to know all about them and want to get an autograph, and for kids to someday, you know, aspire to be a player or just be the top of whatever their interests are. So yeah, there's some fame and popularity that goes along with it, but I don't worry about a guy like John Jay letting that go to his head.
Not at all.
Some players you worry about, John Jay would not be one.
Inside to Jay, 2-2. Descalso, the runner at second base, extended his hitting streak to 5 games. 8 for his last 18. He stands at second. Stays away from that pitch. 3-2.
Compliment Tony La Russa, and we've complimented him for 1,000 other reasons, but one of the things he was always good at with some of these young players that are now solid citizen Cardinals is he didn't let you get too excited about yourself.
No, he didn't.
Especially the young players. We got a lot of other young players just like you, so you're renting this job, which is the truth.
Three-two pitch to Jay. Taps it foul. Young player comes up, they always tell him, Brent, don't own.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and you're also kind of leasing the uniform. They'll give it to somebody else someday.
Jay rips it right side. It's off the glove of Weeks. And a base hit for Jay. Descalso had to be held up. Nearly caught. And by Weeks getting a glove on it, at least it saves a run.
Exactly. Saves a run. Quick reaction. Hard hit ball. Stretches out as much as he can. Keeps the ball in the infield. Almost hangs on. Ball was scalded by John Jay. He's up over 320 now.
Runners at first and third. Carpenter with a double on a 3-2 pitch. Back in the second inning. He's also grounded out. 1 for 2. Nice play by Lucroy. Somehow kept that in front.
Changeup that he just pulled into the dirt. And Lucroy could see right away he's going to have to give up his body and just try to block that. Almost hopped into it. That's one of those pitches, the minute you release it, you're saying uh-oh at the same time.
One-0 pitch. Lucroy was hurt by a suitcase earlier this year, packing, so he missed some time. Miguel Montero leads all of Major League Baseball with over 1,000 innings caught this year. Since the start of 2011, over 2,100 innings, and Molina's been right there with him. 1-1 pitch. Check swing. 1-2.
MLB really trying to cut down on those suitcase injuries.
You never know, huh? Got to be careful.
I understand he was actually packing with his wife.
Exactly.
It was kind of a team effort. Now they didn't
so
say
now you're saying watch out for the wives too.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying she maybe could picture her throwing a suitcase at him. What do you mean you're going on a trip again? I don't think that's what happened.
Usually they're trying to help you pack.
I get that.
Get you out of here.
Bye.
Or maybe that's just my house.
No comment.
Wait a minute. What's going on here? 2-2 the count.
Well, like it or not, the Cardinals are going on a trip today.
That's right.
And a lot of games left on the road, too, for St. Louis. A couple more road trips. Very short homestand after this road trip.
It's 3 games with Houston. Then back out on the road, see the Cubs.
And the Astros.
Yep. And then finish up with Washington and Cincinnati. Be interesting to see how both those teams will play that final week. The 2-2 pitch. And we're assuming that at that point in time, both are headed to postseason play. Now, Charlie Manuel last year did the Cardinals a favor. Played hard. The Phillies going into the postseason against Atlanta. Knocked them out. Cardinals win. Rest is history. Will the same be done this year?
Well, we won't see Strasburg.
That's big.
He's been shut down.
Runner from first. That's Jay off with this pitch. Here's the 3-2. Carpenter grounds it to first. Cardinals will strand 2. Torrey Hart made that play, and he's now shuffling and limping off the field. 25 World Series highlights. Some good, some bad for the Cardinals. Steve Zesch, the publisher of Game Day magazine, and this particular yearbook put a lot of work into it, talking to writers that have been around the club for decades. Really had an all-star staff to put this together to come up with the top 25 moments in World Series history. Cardinals have played 112 World Series games. Were you a part of that staff?
I sure was. I had the opportunity to look through all of the great moments and kind of pick what we thought would be the most memorable, dynamic moments, and incredible how many there were. And it was kind of a good reminder of moments I'd forgotten about, and and even a bit of an education to think back of the teams in the 40s and some of the players that were responsible for the Cardinals winning some of those early World Series.
Nice play by Schumacher. Aoki is retired. That's how we start play here in the 5th, and that's what Steve said. I did an interview with him talking about the yearbook, and he said essentially the hardest part is going back and looking at moments that none of us were part of or were living at the time, but then you read up on the moments, and if you put it in the perspective of having television and everybody seeing it, and now they're just tremendous.
Slaughter's mad dash home, and Alexander pitching on really no day's rest in a World Series Game 7. I mean, that was huge, and yet we don't have the video of it. We don't have the sound bites, as you mentioned.
In current history, obviously David Freese, Lance Berkman, David Eckstein, Bruce Sutter, Jason Mott, all part of that. Oh-1 is hit to Schumacher again. 2 outs.
And clearly subjective as to what moments grab you the most, and it wasn't just about individual achievement in the series. It was really what made the most effect on the Cardinal brand and the Cardinal franchise. And I thought it was just a fun exercise to do, and it really is an outstanding publication. The photos in that, to me, are, I mean, that makes it worth getting that magazine, just the photos.
Cardinals.com/publications, 345-9303, 314-345-9303, or Cardinals.com/publications. Here's Braun, who is 0 for 2. Quietly, Joe Kelly putting together another solid start. Milwaukee with 5 base hits. Kelly has struck out 5. Only 1 walk.
And so far he's handled Weeks, Braun, and Ramirez. 2, 3, 4 in this order. 0 for 7. You mentioned Corey Hart kind of limping off the field. We saw him kind of running gingerly as he scored his second run in the 4th inning. He's 2 for 2 today.
Rick, you love sabermetrics, so have at it.
Oh, how'd you know? I love sabermetrics. That's exactly right. Star Wars. I like that little graphic we have there. But the 2012 National League wins above replacement, and it's a new sabermetric term, not so new, but it's called WAR. Braun and McCutchen lead the National League, and basically that is a stat that tells how many wins they are personally responsible for their club. And Braun among the league leaders again.
The Cardinals leading Milwaukee 4-2 as we move to the bottom of the fifth. And Matt Holliday leads it off, followed by Craig and then Beltran. Well, we thought that Corey Hart, something may not have been right when he was running out the field. We are correct. Travis Ishikawa, who's been used primarily as a pinch hitter this year, the former Giant and Mariner, takes over at first base. And Hart is out.
And you expect Markham to be out soon as well. He's been a 5-inning pitcher. We mentioned that in our open. Last 3 times out.
Holliday with a 2-run homer back in the first, and he's also flied out to center field. 1 ball and 1 strike. NFL using replacement officials. I'm sure in New York last night, watching the game in Baltimore, they wanted to see a replacement of the first base umpire. It was a play that clearly showed Mark Teixeira was safe on the potential play that would have tied the game in the 9th, and instead he's called out. Years past in September, those two teams meet, not a big deal. This year, different story, going back and forth, top spot in the East. And again, as it does weekly, it brings up the idea of instant replay on certain calls. Limited instant replay right now in the game of baseball. As Holliday taps it foul. And just to finish your thoughts, Rick, on WAR, and that's the sabermetrics idea of looking at the importance of an individual.
Yeah, wins above replacement. So you want to know the WAR of Matt Holliday, the way that's mathematically figured out. And of course, it's a long formula and done with the rest of the league stats. But what would the average player playing left field for the Cardinals, if you would have inserted him, and then you try to figure out how many games would the Cardinals have won without Matt Holliday, but with just the average left fielder, and that number that remains is, let's say it's 6, which is what Ryan Braun's number is, means the Brewers win 6 more games because he's their left fielder. And that, in many people's eyes, is a good way to project who's the most valuable player in that league. Fantasy draftees use it a lot to determine who's going to give them the most bang for their buck in the fantasy leagues. But I think it's gaining more and more popularity as a way to rate the value of a particular player.
.1-0 pitch to Alan Craig. You're more of an eye test kind of guy, I think, than sabermetrics. Agreed?
Yeah, I like them both. I don't mind using the numbers to kind of verify what you see. I think there's a healthy combination of both. In fact, I wrote my senior engineering thesis on a sabermetric stat before I even knew what the word sabermetric was, and on how to project Cy Young Award winners.
Is this Rickometrics?
How to project Cy Young Award winners using standard deviation theory.
That is way over my head.
As it was mine. Didn't say I knew what I was writing.
I just go down to the guys in uniform. Is this guy pretty good? Yeah. All right. I'm going with you. Ramirez stabs at it, spins, and makes the play over to Ishikawa. And why is Travis Ishikawa in this ball game? He's replacing Corey Hart. See him slip just a little bit there, and left ankle. That was the ball previous inning that
almost looks like his instep.
Yeah, made the play, and then, as you talked about too, he scored 2 runs today, and the second time he was limping. So 2 down, and here is Beltran, who is homered. The ones that go against sabermetrics are saying at times that you can crunch the numbers the way that you want, and sometimes it's not about range or positioning. It's totally looking at numbers, and some of the the factors and variables that can play into those.
Well, Carpenter needs tools, and sabermetrics is a tool, but you still need the carpenter. The bookshelves do not build themselves. You need somebody with the expertise on how to use it, when to use it, how to use it correctly. And sabermetrics is just a tool, and it's an important tool. And baseball has, I mean, they basically have just dove into the sabermetrics world. Bill James really got it started in many ways, and a lot of scouts use it. A lot of general managers use those tools.
1 ball and 2 strikes on Carlos Beltran. Beltran with a home run, and he's also struck out, and he strikes out for the second time. 1 for 3. We played 5 here at Busch Stadium. It's Ramirez, Ishikawa, and Lucroy coming up. 4-2 St. Louis. To you by AT, the nation's largest 4G network, AT&T. Rethink possible. And by Ford, the official vehicles of the St. Louis Cardinals. St. Louis with a lead of 4-2. As we move along now to the top of the 6th, Ramirez, Ishikawa, and Lucroy. And here we are again. Typical Joe Kelly this year, getting you into the 6th inning and having a chance to win the game.
A lot of quality starts, 9 of them, in fact, for Joe Kelly.
Here's a ground ball. Descalso makes the play. Ramirez is 0 for 3. If you'd like to be here in person at Busch Stadium or follow us on the road, get your tickets at StubHub, the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the Cardinals.
One of the things we've seen with Joe Kelly is he does not seem to have diminished stuff as the game goes on. Even as he gets into the 5th, 6th, 7th inning, he really doesn't lose velocity at all.
I don't know about you, but when I heard the name Joe Kelly, I did not realize, and I knew he was on the radar for the Cardinals to take a hard look at, especially this year, but I didn't realize he throws as hard as he does, as Ishikawa looks at a pitch that's 97 miles an hour here in the 6th inning.
When he was invited to spring training with the other cast of characters who we had heard of, you thought, okay, yeah, we knew the name Joe Kelly, but it's like, that's interesting they're inviting him. I wonder if that's just a lark, or I wonder if they're just kind of trying to help him out. He got on the roster. I wonder if they just had an extra spot. I mean, you weren't really thinking that that was something that was projecting him to be a Cardinal starting pitcher in 2012, that's for sure. But in spring training, he really impressed. They sent him out fairly early from spring training. But the conversations about him with Derek Lilliquist and Dyer Miller was, this guy's good. This guy's going to be real good. And sometimes you send out the pitcher early in spring training so he can get with the club that he's going to be with, get settled, and kind of get into the feel and the rotation of the team that he's going to play for, and that was Memphis, and he hasn't looked back.
3-1 pitch to Ishikawa. Hit out of play. Johnny Cueto is roughed up in his start today. 4 runs over 4 innings. I know that tears you up, Rick, and his ERA is now at 2.71. So the ERA leader, R.A. Dickey, at 2.64.
They have to give me a minute to recover from that news.
He's now winless in his last 12 September starts and just 2-7 in 19 starts in his career in September. And you wonder if that would carry over to postseason baseball. Certainly catches your attention.
Sure does.
A 1-out walk in this 4-2 game. Tying run comes to the plate in Lucroy. AT&T trivia question: who holds the Cardinals record for wins against Milwaukee in a season?
I know this one. Hint, he played for Milwaukee.
Maybe that's why they gave him so much money. 4-0, Jeff Suppan in 2005.
And the faulty reasoning there that any baseball person will tell you is it'd be like the Cardinals trading for Bud Norris. We got Bud Norris because he beats us so badly, but the rest of the league beats up on him. So what good is it if we don't have him to pitch against us anymore? Becomes a little more average.
You know, there's talk that the Cardinals, we hit Houston, could face Norris and Roger Clemens. Still talk that Clemens, even though he said he believes I won't pitch this year in the big leagues, he's also said I'll keep the door open. Apparently he has a pretty good relationship, Jim Crane, the new owner, and the ownership group that's in place now. Wouldn't that be interesting? Lance Lynn getting loose in the pen. You wonder if the decision making right now for Mike Matheny is complicated a bit because of Westbrook and the potential of missing a start. Shelby Miller was really good last time we saw him, or the first time here in the big leagues. The 3 strikeouts, or rather 4 in 2 innings.
Well, it takes both Trevor Rosenthal and Shelby Miller maybe out of the equation for a couple of days while you're waiting to see about Westbrook, but it sure shouldn't change the way you think about innings 7, 8, and 9. That's Mojica, Boggs, and Mott as far as I'm concerned. But because it's the 6th inning, it seems to be that Lynn is up just in case Joe Kelly falters here in the 6th.
And a ground ball that's slowly hit. Carpenter thought about going to second. Ishikawa is your runner at second base, and now it's Carlos Gomez, who is 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a ground out.
Wise choice by Matt Carpenter. This is a jam sandwich right here. This is right in on the fist, 93 miles an hour, and Carpenter would have been a very close play at second base, but why risk it? You have a 2-run lead, get an out. So I think he made the very, very wise play, just getting the runner at first.
Pitch count at 84 for Kelly, and he is due up 4th for the Cardinals, looking ahead to the home half of the solid season for the man at the plate, Carlos Gomez. The 16 home runs. He's also put together 32 steals. That's strike 1.
Gomez is up to 5th in the National League in stolen bases with those 32 bags. There was a time where I would have called him a raw talent, but not a very good player. And I don't think that's how I would describe him right now.
Here's a ground ball right side. Schumacher quickly to first, and he puts it away. So Kelly out of a little jam. Midway through 6. Birds on. At 8:30, we'll be in San Diego, Petco Park, in our first visit and our only visit to see the Padres. And then 4 games against the Dodgers. Those games will be seen on Fox Sports Midwest. That series, all-important series, begins on Thursday. There's so many side stories going into that series with Los Angeles, not just what's happening from the wild card perspective. You could have the return of Chris Carpenter and also Clayton Kershaw going for the Cy Young Award.
Somebody's going to have to start on Thursday in Los Angeles. At this point, that's Jake Westbrook's day, but we do not think that he's going to be able to make that start. Manny Parra, our Mid-America Chevy dealer's called to the bullpen, the only left-hander that Milwaukee has. But somebody's going to have to start on Thursday, and really looking forward to that series in Los Angeles. 2 teams vying for the wild card, and Pittsburgh may still be in it at the time, but the Cardinals and the Dodgers, both storied franchises, great history, used to playing in October, and they may be battling it out down to the wire.
Manny Parra, lefty, takes over. Game 1 on Friday night. Had a comebacker that was hit off the bat of Adrian Chambers that hit him in the face, and he had a black eye, swollen cheek. Back out there here for game number 3. Schumacher to lead it off, and the first pitch is a strike.
One of the things you battle as a pitcher when that happens, you get hit by a line drive, or whether it's hitting the leg, or in his case he got the ball that came off his face. You have to be guarded against not finishing your pitches.
Fly ball in the left field, and that's put away by Schaefer.
What you tend to do is throw the pitch and then kind of get ready to field all at the same time, and you kind of forget to finish the pitch. It's just a human reaction.
So 95 pitches for Sean Markham this afternoon. As we talked about in the open, 5-inning pitcher. That's the case. 5 innings, 4 runs, 8 hits, no walks, strikes out 5. Did give up the 2 home runs in the first, a 2-run shot by Holiday. Solo home run by Beltran. 95 pitches this afternoon.
So you'd almost say it was a classic Sean Markham start, and I would say it's been what we've come to expect from Joe Kelly on the Cardinals side.
And part of that double switch takes Ryan Braun out of this game too. That's big, as Schaefer is your left fielder. That's hard hit to center field. Gomez puts it away, and Cruz is hitless this afternoon, 0 for 3. So you've got Corey Hart left with what looked to be a foot or an ankle injury, and now part of the double switch takes Braun out of the game. That's big down the stretch here this afternoon, because you will see the middle of the lineup one more time, at least.
And a double switch with Ryan Braun really doesn't make much sense in terms of where he is in the order. You work backwards from whoever made the last out, so a double switch would make more sense to do it with Carlos Gomez.
Only thing I can think of is that we saw Ron Renneke do this in Milwaukee, and we questioned the move at that time, and later found out it was a groin injury with Ryan Braun. So it would just lead you to believe maybe there's something there that we don't know about.
That's exactly right. I mean, otherwise it would not make sense to double switch.
On the surface, it doesn't at all.
No.
1 ball, 1 strike with 2 outs and nobody on, and this is Daniel Descalso.
And as important as this game is to the Cardinals, the Brewers are feeling the same sense that this is a game they have to win. They're trying to get to 500, as you mentioned earlier. So to take Ryan Braun out of this game when you're only trailing by 2 in the 6th, there has to be another reason.
Last year's run by St. Louis is always referred to by guys like Ron Renneke and others around baseball, that with the second wild card now and the kind of run the Cardinals had, truly anything can happen. And Ron has pointed to that all weekend long. If the Brewers would win today, that pulls them to within 4 of St. Louis.
We mentioned 11 teams, maybe 12, still in the wild card hunt. 4 spots, 2 in each league. That's a lot of cities still interested in baseball right now. And it's going to mean a lot of meaningful games, a lot more scoreboard watching.
It does change how baseball is wrapping up. Final couple of months of a season. A lot of teams will say, I'm not going to trade off some of my talent because we have a chance to get back in a race. But it also could really complicate things as far as a schedule maker and what may happen at the end of the season. Multiple teams could be tied for that second wild card spot.
Well, the problem this year, Dan, the big picture problem this year with all of those potential teams, if you have a 3 or 4 way tie for that second wild card, you have a scheduling nightmare, because you don't have but 1 day to have the play-in tiebreaker games to go into the actual wild card playoffs. So because of the late addition of that second wild card, it could be a mess.
Strikeout for Parra, his first of the afternoon. We'll jump ahead to the 7th when we come back. Start today for Los Angeles against San Francisco. Keep an eye on that. Milwaukee trying to pull within 4 in this ball game. And we're in the top of the 7th. The Cardinals leading by the score of 4-2. Joe Kelly is out. Mojica is in. It's part of our Chevy call to the pen. And you wonder if there was any hesitation whatsoever by Mike Matheny to keep Kelly in for one more inning, maybe squeeze one more out of him. But he's got guys down there with expanded rosters that are fresh, and Edward Mojica has been dominant since coming from Florida into this spot.
Well, I'm sure that was the overriding input for Mike Matheny's point of view to bring him in, is how good he's been. But Joe Kelly's also been very good as well. 86 pitches through 6 innings. He didn't look like he was tired. Plus, you're at the bottom of the order, so I mean, I think there's some weight in the direction of maybe giving Joe Kelly a chance to get a couple of batters out. Mojica's also good at coming in the middle of the inning and kind of being a savior of that particular inning and leaving some inherited runners, but he's just been dynamite.
And a base hit into center field. Just a straight switch, too. No double switch. Mojica taking over to pitch this 7th inning. Lines up, as Rick said, with Mojica, Boggs, and Mott if everything goes to plan.
Haven't seen that pitch location from Mojica before. That was just a fastball that just got away up in the zone. Or it may have just been a split. Look at 85 mile an hour. Perhaps just a pitch that just floated up in the zone. Eye high.
Here's Logan Schaefer. Trying to bunt his way on with his good speed. Rick, for fans that haven't seen Mojica, what has made him so good since coming over from Miami?
Well, he's a guy that throws strikes, number one. He just does not get behind hitters. And for a reliever, that's really number one. You got to be able to do all the little things right, field your position and throw strikes. That's where it starts. But he also has the stuff to go along with it. His split can be really nasty. Throws it down in the zone for the most part.
Ooh, they almost got him.
Very close. Quick feet, snap throw. Almost.
Schaefer, who's at the plate, appeared in 8 games a season ago with Milwaukee, only 3 at bats. He was 1 for 3. Outfield is fairly deep, and in left, Holiday awfully deep.
Segura runs well, 4 for 4 in stolen bases. And he's had a nice afternoon. You can see why he was the 2nd rated prospect for the Angels.
One ball and 2 strikes. Top of the lineup, Aoki is on deck.
Kind of slings the ball to first base, Mojica, on the pickoff move. Kind of throws it from side angle, short, quick throw.
And he got him. Strikeout of Schaefer. First strikeout for Mojica.
There's the split. Ball's going to just drop last minute. Sinks down and away.
Mojica has been so good, too, at cleaning up messes. Inherited runners.
Sure has.
Starts this inning fresh. Aoki taps it foul for strike 1. As a double that was back in the first. Fly to center and also grounded out to second base. No balls and a strike, and another check on the runner.
Aoki snapped an 0 for 9 with a double to lead this game off, and Joe Kelly just left him standing there.
Tapped foul. 0-2. Gap in right center. The 0-2 pitch. He puts it in play. Can they turn two? Out at second. And no chance to get him at first. And I'll tell you what, they took out Schumacher hard. Segura did. Young middle infielder. I'll say it again, Rick. I've had many tell me that they feel Skip Schumacher might be the best at hanging in and getting ready to take that slide, but staying in and ready for the punishment. May not be the best on the turn, but he's got guts.
Tried to jump over him. I think Segura actually gets the worst of that punishment.
Yeah.
Skip landed on his head.
A 4-2 lead here with 2 outs in the top of the 7th. Strike to Ricky Weeks. Niger Morgan is on deck. Crowd today of 39,919. 39919.
That's a little bit different than saying Ryan Braun is on deck.
You bet. That gets by Alan Craig. Runner advances to third. That's an error on Mujica.
We talked about the way he just slings the ball on the pickoff attempt. And that one just got away. And always tough to handle when it's on the infield side for a first baseman because he's got to navigate through the runner trying to get back. I think that ball might have sailed a bit on Mujica.
One ball, one strike on Weeks. There's 17 home runs. Fly ball out to left. Holiday under it. He just missed it, didn't he?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's time to stretch. Cardinals have a lead. Scores 6. Any size drink, just 50 cents all day tomorrow at your nearest On the Run at Mobile. As you know, this year, 6 is a serious number. Shane Robinson will be the pinch hitter for Mexico. Along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Pat Paris with us, Jim Hayes as well. Second inning of work for Manny Parra. Robinson has been a very good pinch hitter this year for the Cardinals.
Really become the #1 guy off the bench for Mike Matheny. 11 for 42.
Scoreless inning of work. Mexico.
And really a different role. You have to be very prepared for this role because you're typically going to be facing a closer or a late inning specialist as a pinch hitter. Usually going to be a key situation. You have to find ways to keep your timing during the game.
That catches the home plate umpire, crew chief today. That's Daryl Cousins.
And being a pinch hitter is a little bit like being a reliever. I mean, you're really just watching the game for 2.5 hours. Maybe a kicker in the NFL. Similar kind of mentality, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're important. So being ready mentally, physically. Some guys that would make sure they would find a way to go ride the bike inside or do some kind of cardio work so they're not so kind of stiff. Again, after sitting around and watching baseball for a couple of hours. And you can't get wrapped up into the game, too, as a spectator, which is an easy thing to do for a reliever or a pinch hitter. Because you're talking about they, and all of a sudden it's we.
3-1 pitch. And that's in the dirt. Leadoff walk for Shane Robinson here in the home half of the 7th. So here is John Jay. Leadoff man is aboard. And we know John is a very good bunter. Will he be asked to do that here? But then you're taking the bat out of one of the hottest hitters in baseball.
I'm okay with it. Hit and run also a possibility. Ramirez way in on the grass. Now he's taking a couple of steps back when Jay did not square around. But he's not completely sold that he won't do it here. Still in on the grass.
1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jay with a pair of hits today and a run scored, 2 for 3.
You'd often think about the possibility being greater with lefty on lefty, but John Jay's hit left-handers pretty well during this streak as well.
Cardinals trying to win this ball game to get to 75 and 65, return to 10 games above 500. Joe Kelly, 6 innings, 86 pitches. Mexico, the scoreless 7th. That's 2 strikes on John Jay.
Good hands by the Cardinal manager. He still got it. From that ground ball that went into the Cardinals dugout. Barehanded it. Didn't use his hat like the previous manager would.
And that's in the dirt. Count runs full on Jay. Will they start Robinson here on a 3-2 pitch? And that's lined into center field. Robinson was running, and he'll stop at second base. Ball was hit hard right back up the middle. John Jay with another 3-hit afternoon. He is red hot.
Another bullet. Shane Robinson's already at second base. The problem is Gomez is charging that ball hard and has a good arm. I still would have liked to see Shane Robinson try to go to third. I'm going to guess he would have beat that ball there. And maybe the throw wouldn't have even gone to third. Gomez tries to get the lead runner Robinson. Then what that ensures is that John Jay goes to second base, and he may have not even tried. And that's really up to the runner at that point. Jose Oquendo has got to let Shane Robinson make that decision himself. Now another question of bunting. Will Matt Carpenter bunt?
Remember the other night, Corey Hart on a bunt got a forced play at third on a very good play as he was charging from first. Seen where Cardinals will show bunt, pull back, and swing away. Would they do that here with Carpenter?
I'm guessing he's bunting here.
He has doubled today, has an RBI. Runners at first and second. Squares to bunt. Takes the pitch, and it's ball one.
Generally, with the runner at first and second, nobody out, the key is to bunt the ball to the third baseman, who's giving the defensive signs right now. Some teams will have the third baseman give the sign. Others will have it come from the catcher. But Ramirez has flashed the signs to all the infielders as to what bunt defense is on. But if you bunt it to the third baseman, you're going to force him to come in. He's got no chance to make the play at third.
1-0 pitch. Carpenter gets the bunt down. Robinson is out there onto first, and they turn the double play.
So much for having no chance to get the lead runner at third. They put the wheel play on, which brought the shortstop ahead of the lead runner. An aggressive play, not a bad bunt by Carpenter, just well defended. There's Segura headed to third. Middle of the infield's wide open. Close play at third turned into a double play. Wow, that's a very aggressive bunt defense by Milwaukee.
Potentially what could have been a huge inning. Now you just don't know. John Jay with a 3-hit game, 12 this season. The Cardinals had 2 on, and numbers 2, 3, and 4 coming up. Barris coming in. There's now 2 outs and a runner at second base. came over. The deal with the Pirates, Casey McGee sent to Pittsburgh. We should mention that the Cubs, they pick up 2 in the 8th and now lead Pittsburgh 4-2. That's in the 9th. We turn to our drives of the game, brought to you by Nissan. This is Matt Holliday. He knew it off the end of the bat. And then it was right after that, Carlos Beltran, a solo shot in the first inning. Nissan drives of the game.
Cardinals got their offense early, 3 in the first, 1 in the second, but haven't scored since then.
John Jay, the runner at second. Pitch is taken for a ball by Holliday. Going back to the wheel play. It's a heck of a double play turned by Milwaukee.
They're a very good defensive team. They're 5th in the National League. And they showed kind of a Cardinal-like aggressiveness defending the bunt. Something become a trademark here in St. Louis.
Holliday hits it out to left. Schaefer is there to make the catch. So the Cardinals get the first 2 on, and then with 2, 3, and 4 coming up, they can't score. We jump ahead to the 8th. For the 8th here, Mitchell Boggs. This has been his home in 2012, the 8th inning. Very good numbers this season and a real solid year for Mitchell.
Last 2 outings have not been good for Boggs, but really everything before that was. Gave up 2 runs against the Mets, and in his last outing here against the Brewers, gave up 3 hits and 2 runs in an inning of work. But by and large, very good numbers for Mitchell Boggs. ERA in the low 2s. And he's become a solid 8th inning pitcher.
Niger Morgan will be the pinch hitter. So you have Boggs batting 3rd. Robinson stays in the game to play left field.
Yeah, it's interesting that Mike Matheny has taken Matt Holliday out of this game. In 4-2 game, Brewers have already lost Ryan Braun with a double switch.
This will help. Boggs, 1 pitch and 1 away.
Thank you. Shane Robinson walked in a pinch hit appearance. And you wonder if the back is maybe a bit stiff for Matt Holliday, because really was not necessary to double switch with him. Mitchell Boggs is just going to throw 1 inning anyway. So not necessary to leave Robinson in the game for Holliday, so you just hope Matt's okay.
Here's Ramirez with 1 down. We're in the top of the 8th, 4-2 St. Louis. Ramirez is fly to center. Grounded out to short and also struck out. Travis Ishikawa is on deck. Derek Lilliquist along with that man right there, Jake Westbrook. Mitchell Boggs all smiling a little bit bigger today after the win by Georgia over Missouri last night in Columbia. Georgia natives. That's hit out of play for strike 2. .97 from the hard-throwing right-hander. The 2-2. I think they're questioning whether or not that did hit him. I can hear Boggs saying, wait a minute, hold on.
Cruz doesn't believe it, neither does Boggs. And here comes Mike Matheny, and he's going to argue it. Wasn't called right away, and it looked to be that Aramis Ramirez made the call.
Guy's throwing 97. If he hits you on the arm, you would think there'd be more of a reaction than what we got out of Aramis Ramirez.
He threw his bat, and you just wonder whether it may have grazed him.
I think that's the only way it could have potentially even hit him.
Or maybe his shirt. Boy, I don't know. The Brewers have 5 players who've been hit 10 or more times this year. You look at the leaderboard, and they have 5 of them, 5 of the top 7 in the National League, including Ramirez. I guess that's how they do it.
Ishikawa up for the second time. He's in place of Hart, who left the game injured.
In every clubhouse, Dan, you've seen the uniform.
Yep.
There's a big kind of league rule poster in every locker room talking about how you're supposed to wear your uniform. And one of the things in that decree from Major League Baseball is you cannot wear a loose-fitting uniform in order to allow yourself to get an advantage on the playing field, including getting hit by a pitch. That's part of the deal, but you know players do that. I'm sure that didn't hit him. I just think it may have hit his uniform top.
Maybe. 2-0 hit out of play, 2 balls, 1 strike. Brewers lineup looks a lot different. No Ryan Braun.
No Corey Hart.
And no Corey Hart. Hit by pitches. Here's what you're talking about. Man, that's a big difference.
No
82
doubt.
to 53. Second closest. 2-1 pitch. Indication that you've got some pretty tough guys, or teams are trying to pitch you inside.
And or there are guys that like to dive out over the outside corner too, and don't really care if they get hit. Guys that like to dive for that outside corner sometimes walk right into a fastball.
And that's a walk. Down and in, so getting Morgan trying to bunt his way on the first pitch. Now a hit batsman and a walk. Wonder if Mike Matheny would go to Mott in the 8th like he did against the Mets to pick up a 5-out save.
I think he's thinking about it.
He is up now and getting loose, and he can get loose in a hurry. It's one of the benefits of having a guy like Mott in the bullpen. Not only is he a hard thrower, a good closer, but it doesn't take him long at all to get loose. He says he could take about 3 or 4, 5 pitches out there, and then he gets his warm-up tosses once he comes in the game. He says by that time he's set to go.
Such a different delivery, too, for a closer. He kind of has that little recoil as he starts to throw his warm-up tosses. Normally, you like to ease into it, make sure you're loose, and he just kind of just throws the first pitch as hard as he can and 2 or 3 more like that, and that's how he ends up getting his arm loose.
Runners at first and second.
You wouldn't tell a young kid to do that. Okay, here's how you get loose. Throw 5 balls as hard as you can and then work on the control after that. You wouldn't teach that.
The Hart Ishikawa spot. 5th in the lineup, has been on base 4 times. Here's Lucroy. 1 ball, 1 strike. He has grounded to short, a single back in the 4th, and also grounded out to 3rd. Taken low, 2 balls and 1 strike. Things a little bit uneasy after the Cardinals were not able to cash in with the 2 base hits. Part of the order coming up in the bottom of the 7th. Could not score. The 2-1 pitch. Outside, 3-1. Some concern in the faces of these fans. Three-one pitch. 3-2. Lucroy didn't like that. Word from the clubhouse, Corey Hart out with a sprained ankle. No word on Ryan Braun. Out of play. Big pitch in the ball game right here. 3-2 to Lucroy. Ground ball. This could be 2. Out at second. It's a double play. A huge double play. Started by Descalso and turned by Schumacher. Boggs gets out of the jam. His reaction? Cardinals still on top. It's 4-2 as we go to the bottom half of the 8th. It's the sure sign of a good time. Here we go. And by the state of Missouri Tobacco Quit Line, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. Brandon Kitzler takes over for Milwaukee. Long-awaited return. Pitching for the Brewers. Worked out mechanical issues and some of the kinks in the minor leagues. Fourth appearance. Record of 1-0.
And be nice to add a little more breathing room here this afternoon. The Cardinals have been hanging on to their lead. They got it early. At one point, a 4-1 lead. Now 4-2, and some uneasy moments there in the 8th inning. But Mitchell Boggs came up with a big pitch. Was behind in the count 3-1. Was able to get the double play. And really electrified the crowd here. But more work to be done for Jason Mott.
In 16 months between big league appearances for this right-hander, who hadn't pitched in the big league since May of 2011. They saw him hit 94-96 on the gun, and he breaks the bat of Alan Craig, and there's one away. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the world champion St. Louis Cardinals. Out to right and a base hit for Carlos Beltran. 2-hit day for Carlos.
Let's hope that gets him going on a hot streak.
For Kitzler, elbow injury that took weeks to diagnose. That was in spring training. But he did work his way up after that through the minors. Began all the way at Class A. Was designated for assignment in June. Outrighted 2 days later. They talk about the slider being a big pitch for him that had been ineffective because of the soreness in his arm. A strike on Skip Schumacher. 1 for 3 today with a double and a steal. Oh, 2.
Pirates now batting in the bottom of the 9th inning. You have the bases loaded. Trailing by 2, playing at home against the Cubs. You mentioned earlier, Cincinnati's already lost.
1-2 pitch. Schumacher spoils it. You can see that the shadows are about to play a factor in this game. A few more minutes, and you'd have to think that would be just about at home plate when the Brewers decide to dig in against a guy throwing triple digits, and that's Jason Mott.
He's okay with that.
As Mitchell Boggs getting his 8th double play this season. Speaking of double plays, that's out at second and out at first. 4-6-3 on the double play, and we head to the 9th. St. Louis on top 4-2.
Game edition of Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. Pat Paris, Cal Eldred are waiting in the wings. Cal will look at Joe Kelly's afternoon. We'll get you ready for what should be a huge West Coast swing, plus Mike Matheny's post-game comments as well. Jason Mott on for the Cardinals. We send it back to the booth. And Dan and Rick. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Jim. 4-2 St. Louis, top of the ninth inning. The Cardinals have out-hit Milwaukee 10-6. Jason Mott looking for save number 34 on the season, and he will face the bottom of the order as the Shadows do begin to work their way towards home plate. Carlos Gomez is 0 for 3. And Jason Mott will be bringing his 98. Last time we saw him, his fastball was right at 98, 99. There's a look at those Shadows just about reaching home plate. And here we are, right where you want to be in the ninth with a chance to win.
And that's strike one. Mentioned earlier, Gomez with the 32 steals. So you have to respect the speed. He's also popped 16 home runs. So the Shadows definitely becoming a factor here as we move along this afternoon. Just past 4 o'clock here in St. Louis.
Talk so much about how those shadows affect the hitter when the ball goes in and out of the shadow, but what about the umpire? I mean, if a hitter can't pick up the ball, then how does the umpire do it? He's got to call the pitch right on a corner, inside or out.
And that high smoke, 98 miles an hour. One away here in the top of the ninth, and our Schnucks difference maker today, Joe Kelly. 6 innings, 5 hits, also added a double. Where would this team be without the emergence of Joe Kelly in this season?
In line for his 6th victory of the year. ERA's been in the mid-3s. Very, very respectable.
First pitch is popped foul out of play.
And you can't say enough about his ability to continue to get deep into games. Now, deep into games used to be 8th and 9th, but deep into games now is getting into 6, 7 innings, and he pretty much does that every time. Another quality start, his 10th of the season.
It's now official. The Pirates lose 4-2 at PNC. They'll start a 3-game series in Cincinnati tomorrow. One ball, 1 strike. Segura has had a nice day. 1-2.
Really like what I've seen from him. He's shown a very strong arm. He had some words with Carlos Beltran. Beltran took him out at second base on the double play to end the Cardinals' 8th inning. Took him out pretty hard, and they kind of looked at each other a little bit. Didn't seem to be too antagonistic, but seemed to have a little flair to him. Segura also swung the bat well.
Here's a 2-2. Liner into right center field. They say he's got some speed, and we're seeing it right now. On his way to third. No, they're going to hold him up. Going to be a double. No need to risk getting thrown out at third base for the second out. And now with 1 out, you're bringing the tying run to the plate. Player of the game brought to you by Budweiser. Carlos Beltran, multi-hit game. Good to see that, Rick.
Yeah, his home run in the first inning, an off-speed pitch from Markham. Kind of got him going in the right direction. He also was able to contribute a base hit in the 8th inning. Carlos Beltran now with 29 home runs, and been a long time between home runs for Carlos, and good to see him back to being our Budweiser player of the game. Plenty of those awards in the early going.
Long time between multi-hit games as well. Had to go back to August 10th for that. There was 20-plus games between home runs.
3-hit game for Segura brings a tying run to the plate. So it's never easy.
Get word that Clayton Kershaw scratched for his start today for LA. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Ground ball to the right side. 2 outs.
Dodgers have already lost Billingsley for the
So Joe Blanton will start. Boy, that is big. I mentioned the numbers earlier for Kershaw. Been tremendous against San Francisco. In this ball game, Aoki is the final hope for Milwaukee. He had a double back in the first. 2 outs, runner at third. Taken just a bit low. Shadow now is out about a half foot to a foot in front of home plate. Tying run is at the plate. 4-2 St. Louis. 2 balls and no strikes, and Cruz out to visit.
Tony Cruz has handled the staff well this afternoon. We haven't talked much about him. Filling in for Yadier Molina today, who's been outstanding really for the last month, all year long. But Tony Cruz filling in. Done a nice job.
Strike on the outside corner. Segura is the runner at third base. His best day thus far in the major leagues with 3 hits and a walk. Aoki trying to extend the ball game. This is popped up, and that'll find the seats. The 2-2. Ripped down the right field line. This ball is gone. On a 2-2 pitch, Aoki has tied it. It's a home run. With the crowd on their feet, Aoki has just tied it with a line drive home run. His 8th of the season. We're tied up. It's 4-4. And with that home run, the game is still alive. And just maybe the season for the Milwaukee Brewers.
What a dramatic turn of events. Aoki with home run number 8 pulled that ball, and there's a question about whether or not he's actually touched first base or not. And both umpires looked like they didn't see it, but he actually tripped as he was running over first base, and I wondered whether he did touch the bag or not on the home run, but they're saying that he did, unless
I believe they're going to wait they're going to appeal this again. They had to wait for weeks to get in the box. This couldn't happen again, could it? He'll step and throw, and the call is safe. Call is made by the home plate umpire.
First base umpire didn't see it, Jim Wolf, because he was covering the ball down the right field line. But Aoki about fell over the first base bag on that ball he hit down the right field line, and he was watching it as we all were. Wow.
Here's a high fly ball out to center. Jay is back with room and makes the catch. Weeks gave it a ride. Cardinals were 1 strike away. It's now tied up 4-4. to the bottom of the ninth. Aoki pulling this down the right field line. So a line drive homer, and the question was if he touched first base. It definitely was a home run. It stayed fair.
I'm still not sure. And he wasn't sure at first. He was asking whether I should go back or not. And the coach told him go ahead. The first base coach pointed, but he actually stopped one other time and thought about coming back and touching the base.
First pitch is popped up. Off the bat of Tony Cruz.
Regardless, a very disheartening turn of events for the Cardinals. Down to the last strike, Aoki got a pitch in the middle half that he could handle, and he turned on it. And does he touch the base or not? He gets a little fumbly, and he does. He hits the front of the base, barely.
Here's Daniel Descalso. Cardinals have had 4 walk-off wins this year. 4-4, bottom of the ninth. And here we are again, Rick, potentially looking at another extra inning game. And the Cardinals, we talked about it earlier, with extra innings and 1-run games.
And an extra inning game with no Matt Holliday.
Said it at the time, if you wind up going through the lineup again, you're going to miss that bat. Daniel is 1 for 3 on the afternoon. Here's the 0-2. And again, we don't know if something maybe flared up with Matt Holliday, lower back. He's been dealing with that over the weekend, but that is, if he's not hurt, the risk that you run.
So the Brewers came back without Ryan Braun.
No Corey Hart.
And Gene Segura has been a big part of this day from the Milwaukee Brewer point of view. 3-hit day, also reached via the walk, but his 1-out double just when everything seemed to be all but over gave the Brewers life.
3-2 is hit in the air out to shallow left. There's 2 outs, and Shane Robinson will be the hitter. Started the season, they weren't sure if he'd be around for very long, adjusting to hard throwing pitching in Major League Baseball here in the States. And with the injuries that they've had, now the everyday right fielder, and they've been very pleased with him.
Seemed to be overmatched. Really what they told us out of spring training was, you know, he had a terrible spring training. And they said that really the only thing he can do is hit left-handed pitching. He's much better as a lefty hitting left-handers. But he just seems to be overmatched by everybody, and that came from the Brewers broadcasters and people who follow the Brewers all spring training long, and they thought, boy, I just don't know where this guy's going to fit. Well, he's done more than fit.
Kind of like So Taguchi was a few years ago.
He was the same way at first. Uncomfortable.
I didn't think he'd ever make it in the big leagues watching him initially. 1-2 the count on Shane Robinson. Kinsler's spot is due up first if we get to the 10th. Then Ramirez and Ishikawa. The 2-2. John Jay is on deck. If you're wondering, Shane Robinson with 2 home runs this year. Number 3 right about now would be nice.
A lot of people would feel a lot better.
Slowly hit, but foul.
Cardinals hoping for a happy flight to San Diego. Not enough of those over the last 3 to 4 weeks.
Robinson slowly hit to the right side. And we have extra innings coming up for the second time in this series, thanks to that man. He tied it up. It's 4-4. Beef jerky, feed your wild side. So Lance Lynn is into the ball game. We move to the top of the 10th. Lynn gave up the home run to Braun on Friday night. After the 2-hour and 20-minute rain delay, we had extra innings here in St. Louis. It wrapped up around 2:30 in the morning or so. So Lynn is into the ball game here. And the Cardinals were 1 strike away from moving to 10 games above the 500 mark and salvaging a game in this series. Instead, Aoki turned on a fastball from Jason Mott and ties it up at 4-4. So pinch hitter, it's Taylor Green for Milwaukee. Pinch hitting for Kinsler. And a pitch that's taken low. So another chance here for Lance Lynn to have something positive happen in a ball game after that crushing defeat on Friday night. Ground ball that is foul.
Well,
1 ball, 1 strike.
And he warmed up earlier, and it's really back to the same conversation we had the other night. You go through your 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guys, and if the score is tied and you get to extra innings, who is the choice for Mike Matheny? Who is the right-hander you're going to kind of go to next? And Salas is an option, and Lynn is an option, and Miller and Rosenthal, all of those are options. And just shows you how deep your bullpen has to be to win. Can't just be 3 guys. It has to be 5 at least that are pitching well. Lance Lynn has not pitched well of late, but he sure did have a good first half.
Mentioned the other night how we thought it was a little different look to his approach on the mound. Mechanically, his delivery towards the plate.
Not going over his head quite as much, and not really having maybe as long a delivery, being more compact and straight towards home. That's kind of what the goal is, to get him going right towards the plate.
Hit to the right side. Schumacher spins. Nice play by Skip Schumacher. He's had a good game defensively for the Cardinals.
And a lift to Lance Lynn as Schumacher lays out and spins all at the same time, all in one motion. Some athleticism in that for Schumacher. Boy, couldn't you just see a little dribbler for a hit against Lance Lynn and think, oh boy, here we go again.
Sure.
It was actually a good pitch. Got the ground ball he wanted, almost found a hole.
A nasty Slider that time by Lance Lynn to Aramis Ramirez. Springfield Cardinals, they advance to the Texas League Championship, a 3-1 win over Tulsa today.
Congratulations. Talked about it a couple weeks ago. George Kissel. You win, you all move up. Not all of you, but a lot of you do.
It's out of play. Kershaw, by the way, we get word, was scratched from his start with a hip issue. Dodgers are hopeful that he will start Tuesday in Arizona. Which then would mean he would start Sunday against St. Louis. Lynn, the strikeout.
Who's left on both benches? The Yankee, Ferris, and Maldonado for Milwaukee. They've used a lot of players. The Cardinals have a much deeper bench, including Yadier Molina so far. And for our Spanish-speaking audience, as always, we try to give you the sights and sounds of the game, and we apologize for the words you may have heard that are not family suitable in Spanish. Lo siento.
There's a base hit out to left. And that's Travis Ishikawa. So we have an extra innings game where Ryan Braun not a part of it. Corey Hart no longer part of it. And neither is Matt Holliday.
And going deeper into the bench. Ferris
yep.
will pinch run. So now just two players left on Ron Reneke's bench.
So 2 outs and a runner at first. Cardinals have the top of the lineup. Jay Carpenter, and then what would be Holiday's spot occupied now by Lance Lynn. Runner goes on the 1-0 pitch. Throw to second and safe. Go ahead run in scoring position.
It wouldn't make much sense to use a pinch runner with a man on first base and 2 outs unless you were going to do just that. Send him. Ron Roenicke sends Ferris. Not a bad throw. A little bit on the shortstop side. Ferris now in scoring position. This team can run.
Big steal out there at second. 2 outs. 1-1 pitch. Now 1-2 on Lucroy.
Ferris had 70 stolen bases just 3 years ago while playing A-ball. Hasn't been able to repeat that since then, but clearly has very, very good speed.
1-2 pitch. He got him. Strikeout for Lance Lynn. Top of the lineup coming up and a chance to win it in the 10th.
Fans hoping for a Redbird victory. They were very close to seeing one in the 9th inning. A 2-run shot with 2 outs by Narichika Aoki tied this game. The Cardinals now trying to win it here in the bottom of the 10th against Cameron Lowe, the new pitcher for Milwaukee. It'll be the top of the order for St. Louis. Taylor Green stays in the game. He'll play first base. And Lowe will bat in the 5th spot for Milwaukee.
Rick, my understanding is that Lance Berkman is not here. Talking with him in the clubhouse before the game. Issues with the knees again, and so he was going to have that further examined. And so if you're thinking about that bat coming off the bench today, that wouldn't seem to be the case, and maybe going to see a specialist in Houston check on those knees and just try to get him healthy enough for maybe a pinch hit here or there. You never know. As you well know, Kirk Gibson, that paid off for him.
Sure did.
One swing of the bat back in 1988. Your teammate then.
One at bat in that entire World Series.
Right. And one of the most famous at bats that you'll remember. There's a strike to John Jay. So we're underway here in the home half of the 10th. And the shadows edging closer now to the pitcher's mound. Start out in the sun, finish up in the shade. Another great afternoon for John Jay. 3 singles, a run scored. Average has jumped to 324.
Good top of the 10th for Lance Lynn. Be nice to reward him with a victory, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Get him back on track. And, you know, sometimes that's what it takes. Just one outing. You know, you've lost your way for a while, and then you kind of regain that feel, and you just get kind of going in a positive direction. And that would be a big plus for St. Louis if Lance Lynn can get it going again.
The 0-2.
Frankly, he's had his opportunities. It's not like they've kind of banished him to the bullpen and haven't used him. He's been used.
.02 pitch, puts it in play. Generous hop, and how about that? The hop off the lip of the grass going back towards the shortstop, and Segura then shows off his arm. You mentioned earlier you like his arm, you like his range. That was not an easy play, and he gets John Jay by a half step or so.
Yeah, very smooth play. He's playing him up the middle, so he's got a long way to go, and there's the hop right back to him. Wow. Doesn't take away from his athleticism, but I think if that ball would have continued in the same direction,
base hit,
I don't think he gets John Jay, because he would have had to take 1 or 2 more steps just to get to the ball.
Lance Lynn is due up third this inning, so Adrian Chambers had moved to the on deck circle. He'll be the hitter.
Nice building block for Lance Lynn. Positive experience. You know, you have those days where you just get tired of people coming up to you and say, oh, hang with them, get them next time. I mean, that's what they say to each other. I mean, it's part of the deal. You don't want to ignore somebody who's having a bad day, but you want to hear an attaboy every once in a while. Way to go, nice job, stay right there. And he's going to hear a few of those after a 2 strikeout performance in the 10th.
3 groundouts and a double off the bat of Matt Carpenter today. Matt with 4 home runs. In the hole, 1 and 2.
Jason Mott is going to get the hang with him, get him next time, you're all right. And I think he will be all right. I mean, he's had very few games where he's not gotten the job done. Unfortunately, today was one of them when the Brewers are trying to go for a very important sweep here in St. Louis in September.
A 2-2 pitch. The 3-2 base hit right field. Winning run is on.
Sinker down and away. Matt Carpenter, his second hit of the afternoon.
Saw Chambers pick up an RBI triple in this series.
Plug that right center field gap. It looks like they're going to give him that gap again. They really play him to hit the ball the other way. The center fielder Gomez is way to the left side of the second base bag, extended.
Have to respect his speed, so Aramis Ramirez way in at third. They'll hold at first, and Rick Chambers this series he's showing off the arm and a good play in left. Maldonado thought he had an extra inning home run, turned into an out, and then we saw his speed, that triple and RBI last night. Here's the 0-1 pitch. A little bit low, 1 ball, 1 strike. One and two.
Chambers swung at that pitch like a man who didn't see it. Kind of just a half swing. Wonder about the shadows now, getting more difficult for the hitters.
Actually had a situation last year with the Cardinals. The players very vocal about start times roughly around that 3 o'clock area, and players felt it was very dangerous as a hitter to step in. They were picking up the ball late, couldn't get out of the way of inside pitches. 2-2. Chambers swings and misses. Ball gets away. Chambers is safe at first. We'll take that. Cardinals initially were going to argue that Carpenter was stealing on the play, and it doesn't matter. Carpenter is down at second base, so Chambers is through. Scoreboard showing 1 out. And initially a little confusion on the field. Now Craig steps out. Home plate umpire calls time and telling both sides now there's 2 outs. Some of the players were questioning that play. So 2 outs, winning run at second base.
The first base occupied. Chambers on a swing and a miss can't go. Carpenter was running on the pitch. Again, with 2 outs, he can. But with 1 out, he's not allowed to go. And here is Carpenter. He takes off early. And it's going to be a strikeout and a wild pitch. But with first base occupied, Chambers is just out. But a chance for the Cardinals to win it here in the 10th.
Floats in there for a strike. We've seen this before, haven't we, Rick, in this series with the Cardinals? Late innings, a chance to not only do damage in regulation, but extra innings, whether it be Friday night or right now, a chance to win it.
Do it now.
0-1 pitch. Craig, base hit in the right. Carpenter being waved in. Throw to the plate is not in time. Somehow he avoids the tag, and the Cardinals win it. Carpenter, one on a slide. Alan Craig delivers. And finally, it's a happy flight to San Diego.
Everybody beating on Alan Craig. Why not? What a great ending to this game. The Cardinals pull it out in 10.
Second time in the series with a play at the plate. Matt Carpenter somehow avoids the tag.
Strong throw from right. Carpenter sees the back of the base, slides for it. Great call, great slide. Beltran telling him to go to the back of the bag. All things working Cardinals in the end.
What a tremendous slide for Carpenter. Cardinals slide to a victory. They salvage a game.